Is this an event that there would be any particular security presence around beyond, you know, the sort of security detail that you would have at a major sporting event?
A whole lot more, actually, but mainly just to keep the partying in check. However, the finish line the start and the finish line being so symbolic, have a different kind of security presence.
This only happened a couple of hours ago, so all of the information is still coming in, and we should be very careful about our reporting about what we know and what we don't know.
Sources tell CNN a third apparent explosive device has been found. Experts are working to dismantle it. This at a different location.
And Dominic, let me just tell you that we're hearing from our colleagues at Fox News. They're reporting that police are saying that they've found some unexploded devices also in the city.
One of the things we have heard, though, was that the Boston police found at least 2 other devices that they did what's called a controlled explosion of. That is, there were more than just these 2 devices that we've shown the pictures of.
2 more explosive devices are found near the scene, police saying a controlled explosion has been carried out on one of them.
And we are now being told by Democratic Congressman Keating of Massachusetts, a member of the House Homeland Security Committee, that in addition to these 2 bombs that went off and killed and injured, these 2 people killed, maybe 100 people injured, they have found 2 other explosive devices. An unexploded device was found at a hotel on Boylston Street, not far away, and another unexploded device was found at what's being described as an undisclosed location.
Heard a third explosion about an hour or so ago. Then there was a rumor that that was a controlled explosion. Do you know what that was?
That was a controlled explosion on Boylston Street, but there was a third explosion at the JFK Library that we believe is related.
So if there were 2 bombings at the Marathon, a third explosion or whatever happened at the JFK Library, and then they discovered a bomb that had not yet detonated at a 4th location, if they see there is some similarity to these devices, then they think this is a carefully coordinated operation.
Authorities found and dismantled 3 other explosive devices.
Are you hearing anything from officials in terms of the number of people that it would be that would be needed in order to? I mean, if there were multiple devices, the number of people that would be needed to carry out something like this?
No, and that is one of the biggest questions. That's one of the reasons, Anderson, so much surveillance video is being reviewed tonight. The public video we have seen and we have released on our air, anybody in the area has been asked if they have cell phone video, any kind of a personal device where they have video to turn it in. Plus, you know from the area, now I grew up in that area, if you're in the Copley Square area, heavily trafficked pedestrian, a very busy business corridor, a very busy tourist area. So there are a number of surveillance cameras in the area, both city cameras, business cameras, and the like. All of that video is being looked at. Officials are saying that obviously if you have several devices in different places, it is possible they were placed by 1 or 2 individuals. Another question is, how were they detonated? Was it a cell phone or some sort of a transmitter detonator? Were they detonated in person? So those are the big questions tonight. As of this moment, law enforcement officials say they don't see this as a large scale, meaning many perpetrators involved. But again, they say that's based on preliminary investigation. And Anderson, one of the things they're being quite candid about tonight is a lot of these details they simply don't know.
Tom, for instance, certainly the fact that there were multiple devices and seemingly coordinated, we don't know the means by which they were coordinated, but that is significant. That is though they might not be sophisticated devices, that at least shows a level of planning or sophistication in how this was carried out.
Well, that could be, Anderson, but you could easily have one person drop one device in a trash container at one location, walk 100 yards to the other location, drop one in there, and then maybe remotely detonate it by cell phone, or have some type of a timer or delayed fuse or some way to detonate it where they could both go off together but not require multiple people to deliver them. So this could be as few as one person or 1, 2, 5 people maybe involved in this, setting this thing up, but it's possible for one to have done it.
Fran Townsend, what are you hearing from your sources today in law enforcement?
Well, Anderson, in addition to looking for something like fingerprints on the seized but unexploded devices that the Boston Fire Department had, they'll look for DNA. I mean, there may be hair or skin samples. They'll be able to not only look at the signature construction of the device, but they'll look to tie it to particular individuals.
And John King, just from the investigative standpoint, can you just kind of run through what we know? Because there were so many different reports today about, a fire at JFK Library that then authorities said, well, it is related. Now they said it's not. It doesn't seem to have been related to these attacks. In terms of there were 2 explosions that we know about. How many devices do we know were found that did not go off?
Well, we're waiting for a definitive answer on that because we've been told during the day there was one other device found that had been detonated. The other reports later, we were told by sources saying they believe there were 2 of those. And that's one of the reasons, Anderson, will be very interesting when we get this briefing, because what you get here is the urgent need. The public wants information. We want information. We want to try to confirm things we've been told by our sources. And yet law enforcement is traditionally very, very cautious at the early stages of an investigation, number 1, so that they don't get out ahead of themselves, if you will, say things that turn out not to be true. And number 2, if they are pursuing leads, the last thing they want to do is give that information out in public.
I'm told our Susan Candiotti has some new information, more information about the investigation. Susan, what are you learning?
Hi, Anderson. I've been talking with a former federal law enforcement official at the top level of the counterintelligence community and someone who still works in the intelligence community. And this official said it is possible that the people or persons or planet might not have been able to get access to the front line there when they wanted to. Maybe not when people were packed in like sardines, as the source put it, at the end of the race when the winners were first crossing the finish line. And that it's possible that the fact that there were multiple unexploded devices also could indicate that these people, whoever was behind this, weren't able to get to where they wanted to be to make these devices explode. And so these unexploded devices as well, and of course Fran was talking about this as well, Fran Townsend here, that they will provide a treasure trove of information. Not only the devices that went off, because they're looking of course at the signatures, the way that these devices were put together, how they were made, but also the unexploded devices, because they could have fingerprints. They could look for the makeup of these devices to try to trace where the items came from that put it together, the containers they were in, and that kind of thing. So a lot of work going on right now by investigators.
And Anderson, just quickly, there's continued speculation about exactly how many devices the police have located. We know that 2 exploded, but there are reports that as many as 5 devices may have been on the site in total, and that 3 were then unexploded. Is that correct, do we think?
I don't want to speculate, and that is speculation. I mean, there are a couple other news papers which have been reporting multiple devices were found unexploded. Boston police have said one of those reports was not true. So I think it's too early at this point to really say. But I do think it's important that we not kind of make this seem larger than it may be. We simply don't know how many other devices there were, Pierce, at this hour.
This is the CBS Evening News with Scott Pelley reporting tonight from Boston.
Good evening. There were reports yesterday that 1 or more unexploded bombs were disarmed, but it turns out there were only 2 bombs, and both of them exploded.
They're already looking at hundreds of videos and photographs, searching for a face, a bundle, a bomb. 2 devices, not more, as first reported and feared.
All other parcels in the area of the blast have been examined, but there are no unexploded bombs. There were no unexploded explosive devices found.